Hey there. I learned many years ago as an amateur magician that one of the very strongest things you can do with a playing card is have it change. And if you can give it a context and a meaning, you raise it to that next level of sort of miracle status. Now, of course, a lot of card changes is just a card, sort of a random card changing into the selected card or the thought of card. And that's all really strong and powerful and commercial. However, with Nailed, you have a two-card transposition. Two cards changing places. Now, even just doing a two-card transpo, maybe with a duplicate card and just a regular pack of cards using just the one duplicate, having the two cards change places will always get a wonderful reaction. But to take it, again, to that next level, I wanted to add something very special. And so I created the idea of Nailed, where two cards change places, even though one of the cards is trapped inside a photograph and nailed to a table. It's such a mythic idea. It's like a dream, something out of a Magritte painting, something surreal. And the fact that you only use one photo, my early methods, of course, involved a switch of the photograph. But then I came up with this really cool principle that allow you to use only one photo, okay? Only one photograph is used, and impossibly the two cards change places. I'm going to show you the classic handling, so the basic handling first. Very simple. Many times when I perform this, I thought to myself that this trick, along with Ambitious Card, are the two card tricks that really make the very most of the classic double lift move. All right? I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that move in just a moment as well. So it is... it's just a very strong trick. So first I'm going to show you the classic handling, and then I'm going to show you some bonus ideas, as well as referring to this brand new PDF where you can download an image. You can print it off at a photocopy place, whatever, on cardstock. Full color image of either US bill or Euro or Canadian or UK British bill. So you can not only have two cards change places, but you can have a selected card and a dollar bill or a paper money currency change places as well. This is Nailed. This cool gimmick does probably 90-95% of the work for you. And what I love about this, it looks exactly like a photograph. I mean, your hands are empty. Looks like a photograph in a very traditional classic sort of clear plastic sleeve. Everything looks so fair, okay? It's here, you can show your hands empty, you take the photograph out, you put it on someone's hand, everything looks legit, looks like nothing. But of course you've just switched the king in and the 4 out, but everything looks the same. It's wonderful, it can be examined. And the secret, of course, is this very cool gimmick. And each of these, I want you to know, each of these are made by hand. That is the only way to get these very special labels or self-adhesive stickers that are sticky on the face. It's the only way to get them in the right position inside the sleeve. Each of these have been done by hand. So I want you to know how much effort went into the gimmick. Now, you will find that the photograph, when slipped inside the sleeve, and you might have to tweak it a little bit. You might have to pull it out, like pull it a little bit to one side or the other, whatever, but it perfectly disguises and hides the king. And yet only one photograph is used. So that's your primary gimmick all set up to go. Now, what you're going to basically be doing is forcing, okay? You're going to be forcing a king. Switching the king for the 4, and then the 2 will magically and impossibly and freakishly change places. So this opens up many possibilities for how you want to force and get these cards set up. You can do it from a shuffle deck. I'll show you right now. Typically, this is literally the way in live performance. I'm going to shuffle this in. Now, if you're an amateur magician, this might strike you as a scary way to go, but this is literally the way I'll do it if I'm not going to do it as an opening trick. And I don't want to start with the deck set up. This is the way I will do it. I'll say, and this is in my pocket. Okay, I'll put that off to the side for now. And I say, let me show you something now. And I go through, and I say, I'm going to show you something with a couple of cards here. Let's see, we'll use that card, and we'll use this card. And actually, wait a second. Rather than me choosing the cards, it's better, I think, if you choose the cards, and then I go into it. So in full view of them, I literally go through, get the 2 cards I need at the top of the deck, and then I go, actually, wait a second, I give the deck a false cut or a false mix-up, whatever works for you, and then I go right into it, into the force at that point. So that's the way I'll do it in live performance if I don't want to use a setup deck. But Assuming you want to use a setup deck and you want to use this as an opening effect or a closing trick, and you maybe switch this deck for another deck or ring this deck in and it's all set to go, then it's very easy, okay? Because in this case, let's do this. Let's assume we're just going to have the 4 of diamonds on top and king of spades second from the top, okay? That's all we're going to do, and we're going to use a double lift. Though, of course, to switch the 2 cards, you could do a top change, you could do a glide. If you're sort of a bit more of a beginner magician and you only know this like the glide, where you pull the card back a little bit, you could show the king, of course, turn the hand over, and is turning the hand over with just the tips of the left fingers. You could push the king back slightly, okay, or do it with the fingers of the right hand, allowing you to pull out apparently the king, but really the 4. So you could use a glide, you could use a double lift, you could use a top change, a whole bunch of options depending on your skill level. But in this case, let's assume we're going to use a double lift. So I have got my 4 on top of my king, and it's on top of the deck. In performance, what I want to do is to say, look, I have made it. Let's try something else, a trick. Okay, I'm going to show you a card trick, and I've made a prediction right here. And in fact, as per the original presentation, I say, and in fact, what I did to make sure I couldn't change my mind is I took a pack of cards out a few days ago, and I spread them out my table. I took out one card, and I hammered the card to my kitchen table. Now, I knew you wouldn't believe me, so I brought, and as I say, photographic evidence. I take this out of my pocket. And this gets a nice dramatic chill in the audience. People go, he didn't actually bring a photograph of his prediction, did he? And I say, yep, there it is right there. As you can see, my prediction, the 4 of diamonds nailed to my kitchen table. Didn't want to have this on my cell phone. You might think it's a Photoshop trick, something like that. So I actually had it printed out here. And I say, hold out your hand. And I deliberately hold both my hands like this, and notice where this is. I have laid the 4 basically exactly in the middle of my fingers. Okay, not on the palm, but just here. What that means is, without any more funny action, I can grab the photograph here, put my thumb to hold the sleeve down as you normally would, and then pull this out, and everything looks so fair. But of course, my fingers conceal the fact that the sticker of the 4 was left behind, and at the same time, it makes sure no one sees the king. So it is a perfect switch. It's the kind of thing that newer beginners who who feel nervous when people burn their hands someone can stare closely right at your hands, okay? Now, a tip here, when you're taking this out and you say I have photograph evidence here, if it is slightly forward, or let's say in your pocket, it's a little off center, right? You can there's nothing here, there's nothing suspicious here, but you say I actually have photographic evidence, and don't make a move of this, but say I have photograph evidence right here, and you can literally, in full view of them, tap it in place without anybody getting suspicious. So I've got photograph evidence right here. You can just adjust it a little bit in the sleeve, and it doesn't look from this side like you're doing anything suspicious, okay? So don't get freaked out if you take it out of your pocket sometime and it's a little off to one side. You may find too, depending on, you might find, just a suggestion here, is depending on the exact placement, because these are slightly different placements because they're done by hand, these labels. You might find you want to trim the tiniest edge of the photo with a pair of scissors, this side or the very end, so that once it's all pushed all the way in exactly the way you want it, it lines up perfectly. So that's just a tip for you to deal with the handmade gimmick, all right? So what have we done? We said a crazy statement. I've made a prediction. We've shown the prediction right here. You say, hold out your hand, and this is what makes this so strong, is it happens in their hand. You bring your hands up, pull out the photo, and because of the wonderful design, it is totally hidden behind the fingers, okay? Then this immediately you go to your pocket. No big deal. Just drop it in your pocket, and you're good to go. Okay, so this is on someone's hand. The last they saw was the 4 of diamonds. Now, because I've got these 2 cards on top, all I do is cut the pack and keep a little break with my pinky. Okay? Little break with my pinky there. But nobody can see it. Then I riffle, and as they call stop, I cut the deck. Or what I can do is I can take the break rather than with my pinky. With my right thumb, I can hold the break as small as I can at the back here. Okay? And adjust it so my fingers are at the front, so there's nothing to see from the sides. It's only the very back which you maybe see that. But I angle my hand this way, so all they see is the wrist. They see maybe the corner of the deck. They see nothing. So now what I can do is start to drop the card slowly with my thumb until they call stop. And the moment they call stop, I drop all the cards above the break and cut the pack. Either way, whatever technique you're going to use there, riffle, stop, or dribbling the cards, is you've got these 2 where you want them. And you say, you could saw the nail 4 diamond prediction, and there it is, the 4 of and you act surprised. Now I'm doing a double lift. I'm turning over the 2 top cards as one. Okay, it's not a hard move. If you're just getting into Magic, you might want to use the thumb at the back here and riffle up the edges of the back until you feel you've got just the two, okay? And then you could even just show them, okay? Or reach underneath and turn them over, whatever feels comfortable for you, all right? And it looks like you've screwed up. Oh, no, I've screwed up here. Because, of course, the card in the photograph is supposed to match yours. So all you have to do is turn the king over, take off secretly the 4, put the deck aside, okay? And you are in this insane situation. They're convinced one card is nailed in the photo and the other is here, but it's actually the reverse. So you put the 2, 1 underneath, give a little magical snap. Slowly take 4. Show that. People will freak. They just saw that's the king. Everyone at this point, my sense is they assume maybe I've got another card hidden under there somehow, like the king, the full king is. But when you do that, and then you show what now the 4's come out of the photo, and inside the photo is the king, and everything. This can be totally examined. People will examine this carefully. This they'll go nuts over. Okay, they will carefully examine this, and this is why, for me, because this isn't just a 2-card transposition normally, but it's got this whole locked in a photograph space and time thing, the reactions I get with this are absolutely unforgettable. Now that I've shared with you the basic handling, and a few options on how you can get in there, whether it's a double lift or a top change or whatever you want, here are a few more ideas that I think bring a lot of value and magic and impact to the trick itself. First idea is if you want to make your switch, if you're dealing with what's called regulars, people who really burn your hands, and if you want to go the extra mile and make that switch even more mysterious, what you can use is a double-faced card, okay? One side's the King of Spades, the other's an 8 of Hearts. All right, now you can either get this, you can buy a pack of double-faced cards from a magic shop, okay? Sometimes they'll even sell you just the one card, or you can make this yourself by taking a king and an 8 and gluing them back to back, okay? That's another way to make a double facer, but it will be a little thicker. So you're basically, when you're doing a double lift, you'll be essentially doing a triple lift, so keep that in mind. But anyway, using a double facer, what I can do here is I can have the double facer king and 8 on the bottom, the 4 of dimes, regular 4 of diamonds there, and then the 8 of hearts, regular 8 of hearts. So all 3 cards are set up on the bottom of my deck. That way, I can cut the pack, keep a break with my pinky if I want, either riffle force or dribble force. They call stop, you let all the cards drop when they call stop and you cut the pack, okay? Or, like I mentioned before, even easier to do is to keep a break with your pinky. When they call, you say, I'm going to riffle down, call stop, wherever you want. When they call stop, you go from this position to this as you take these off. You don't say they call stop and then lift. They might notice the discrepancy between where they called stop and where you lifted the cards. Whereas if you do this and they call stop somewhere and then you adjust from here down to here as you lift off, they'll never see that you lifted off more or less of their cards, okay? And you cut the pack. You turn it over, and so what you've done at this point, I apologize, I want to make sure you know where I am. We've shown our prediction. We've taken it out, secretly got rid of this, right? They think they're holding on to the 4 of diamonds nailed in the photograph. We then do the force, where they call stop, you cut the pack, you turn it over, and you go, there it is, you stop me right. Oh, King of Spades. Now, if I do a double lift now, if I do the same double lift we were talking about before with a classic handling, when I do it now, I can do it slowly, and look at the illusion you get here. I love this. They see the king turned face down onto the 8, then you take the king off, and it changes. So it is imperceptible because the double facers match up, okay? So in this case, I've used the double facer in a very clever way. So they stop, I turn this over. Now, do not worry. So boom, like that. Anyway, take that off. I can put the deck in my pocket here and end with the same starling transposition. Okay, so that's one idea, little bonus idea here, using a double facer. Very deceptive. Okay. Another idea, of course, is if you want at the end that everything to be handed out, you want this to be examined, this, and even the sleeve. Well, that's why you'll find you received along with everything else a second sleeve. Okay. So in that case, what I'd suggest you do is you have the second sleeve in your your left front pants pocket or back pocket or jacket pocket, whatever. You've done you've taken the photograph, you put this in the pocket with this, okay? And then you can do your transpo, and at the end of your transpo, where you say boom, and the 2 have changed places here like this, boom, boom, like that. You can say, take a look at the photograph you want, take a look at that. And then when they've examined that long enough, you then take this out, the examinable one, and start to put it back in here. Now, know what this shouts right away is that this is totally, just in case somebody thought that the sleeve itself was gimmicked, now they can see it's not. It's totally ordinary. Or you can even offer. You can even not even wait for them to ask. Or when you put that in your pocket, if someone says, hey, can I look at the clear plastic sleeve? You reach into the pocket and take this out and you're good to go, okay? So you basically get to switch the two. Now, how do you remember where they are in your pocket? Well, what I do is I always make sure that this is in my pocket. And when I take this, okay, and to be totally honest with you, I don't use this switch much. When I first started, I explored it for a bit, and what I made sure to do is to always put this in my pocket in front of this. So whenever I put it back in my case or back in my jacket pocket, I made sure it was the one in front. So at the end, when I put everything back together, I would reach in and make sure the one furthest back in my pocket was the clear one. However, this, I suggest you consider it and play with it, but ultimately, I'll be honest with you, I never bother to switch these two at the end. I'm busy enough, I got enough stuff in my pocket. Everybody is interested in just the photograph and the card, okay? You're not going to get a lot of heat on this. Now, another idea is take a nail and put a small hole in the middle of the form, okay? You'll find what's cool about this is it adds so much when you do that transposition. I'm just going to reach down here, grab this photo. When you do that transposition here, when you're in this moment, okay, and you go like this, boom, like that. And you come away, and then you draw. People will normally, with this resting on top, when you're going to do your double lift and all that, this resting on top in most performance situations, no one will ever see there's a little tiny nail hole right there, sitting right on top of there when you do your double lift or whatever. You take it off. People don't notice it. If you wanted to cover it with your thumb, be careful, you could, okay? But no one's going to notice that. But what's cool is after the transposition, when you do that, and then they see, wait a second, oh my God, there's actually a 4, the hole in there. That can add a whole tactile element. Very cool little additional element to that. So you might want to consider actually putting a small hole through the 4. Okay, another tip for you there. What's the last thing I wanted to share with you? I've covered so much. Oh yeah, I wanted to get into this crazy new version I've been sort of having fun with for about a year and a half now. And this is, you're going to find, I'm going to, along with this video, the link to this video tutorial, I'm also going to give you a link to a PDF online where you can download, whether you live in the UK, you live in Europe, the UK, Canada, or the United States. You'll be able to download a photograph of this, but rather than a playing card nailed in place, it'll be the folded currency, an image of the folded currency nailed in place. So, what does that allow you to do? Well, because of the design of the folded bill and where it's on the photograph, just like the king, the image of the bill will also hide beneath the 4. So you can start by showing the 4, apparently slipping out the photograph of the 4, going to your pocket with this, and switch in a photograph of your local currency nailed to the table. So that's there to start with. Okay, you say, I'm going to put that down there. Let's try something insane with a playing card. Make sure I can't do any sleight of hand. We got the playing card trapped in a photo and, in fact, nailed to the table as well. And then at that point, you say, can I borrow who's got a $5 bill or whatever matching currency? You borrow this. Now, you're not going to use a double lift to switch the 4 in or anything like that. In fact, you're not even going to use the deck of cards. Okay, or I should say you're going to use the deck, but you're not going to use it really the double lift. The whole thing, the setup is you start with this 4 loaded into the card case, okay? You've just done, pretend you just took it out, you put that down in someone's hands, we'll clean up the space here like this, okay? And so what you do is you say, look, we're going to try something here. And in fact, what we're going to do, and it's kind of crazy, but we'll see how it works out here, is you say we're going to see if we can make something really kind of magical happen here. And what I do, having shown the photo of the 4 of diamonds nailed, and I put that down, and now they've got the bill there. All I need to do now is switch the bill for the 4. And so what I do is I do this. I say, look, I borrow the bill. I fold it in half, in quarters. You can even fold down like this. Okay? And I say, for safekeeping, I'm going to take that and put it inside the case, okay? And what I really like about this is under totally natural actions, I've done the switch. The bill is in this hand. Just the 4 is left in the case. And all I'm doing here, and I've been using this technique for many years, and the key here is what I call macro versus micro, is you do a large action to cover this. This action of pushing the case, the flap forward, pushing the flap up, taking this and slipping it inside the case very fairly, closing the flaps like this, totally natural. Okay, it looks exactly like it should, but what I've done is I took the folded bill, let me show the exposed view here, and I pushed up the flaps with my fingers. Then as I slip this in and my fingers go in, this gets slipped below the case, okay? So it's here, the bill goes below, but my fingers do go inside. That's what really sells it. The thumb pushes below, the fingers go inside. Okay, so in performance speed, it looks like this. Taking the bill, putting it inside. Close those flaps, close this like this, and now all I have to do when I lift this case off, I'm gonna make sure I turn slightly to my right, lift the case straight up, and my left hand falls down to my side. And it goes with the folded item. Okay, so I'm here like this, hand this to somebody else. Maybe at this point I put the deck away, okay? You know, you can either pick up the deck here, hand to this hand, you go to your pocket. Maybe you go to your pocket for a magic wand. Your keys, an invisible magic wand. Literally any excuse to go to your pocket to get something, get a magic coin, whatever you want. I mean, if you're a beginner, an experienced magician, you won't worry about having to palm this. If you're a beginner though, I say do the move and go to your pocket for an invisible magic wand. Leave this in your pocket, take out the invisible magic wand, okay? And then you get to tap these two items. And when people see that the bill has changed to the 4 and there's a hole in it, and you turn that over and they see inside the photograph of the money or whatever your local currency, it takes this a killer trick, and I think it raises it to yet another level. And when I've used the dollar bill handling of Nail, what I've done, two things is first, obviously there's a challenge. If you borrow the bill and you don't have a bill to replace it, you end up with the spectator's money trapped in a photograph. Not exactly a great position unless your version of getting a tip is stealing. There's that factor. So what I suggest you do is either one, say, look, you know, like I want to do something crazy with your dollar bill, but I tell you what, let me buy it off you. So what I've done often is I'll take a $5 bill or whatever and give them a replacement bill. And that does increase the odds of getting a tip, incidentally, once you start handling their money and talking about changing money and stuff like that. Number one. The other thing sometimes I've done, and I think it gets a reaction as strong, is don't use their bill. Use yours. Say, look, I'm going to show you a card trick, something crazy. And if you aren't truly amazed by it, I'll in fact give you some of my money. I'll bet, essentially it's a bet. I'm going to bet $5 of my own money that you're going to be amazed by this trick. We'll get back to the bill in just a second, but let me go. And then I go into the card selection and, taking the photograph out, they hold on to that. And then finally I introduce my own money, or sort of at that point back to this, fold this up and put it in the card case and go from there. So that's just a little bit of some practical. Because again, you know, it's great to have a wonderful idea for a magic trick or an effect, but then working out something that is an effective method that works in the real world, that has a presentational hook that people care about, all that stuff is really, I think, the difference between amateur magic and expert level illusions.